Right, I just want to, in many ways, reinforce what Kat and Owen have talked about with slides. Now, a lot of this is based on statistics, obviously, and obviously we need to be a little bit sceptical of all statistics, but there's a lot of good news in these stats. And I think what they reinforce is that every struggle today that we face raises the question of democracy, the nature of the state, politics, political parties, and so on. And it is tied into what's happened to the working class over the last 20 or 30 years. And much of this is, the consequences of what has happened to the working class over that period of time. I hope my clicker works. Right. Yeah. I need to go back. Now, this one, most of these are lines going down, but this graph is lines going up. And this is, if you look at the percentage of the population who don't trust politicians at all, really, or have very little trust in politicians. From the 70s, 10%, right up to 2009, over 40% of the population have almost never trust politicians of any political party. And again, this is a number of countries: UK, Greece, Ireland, Spain, and Portugal. If you want to know which one the UK is the red. Well, it would be red if the projector can pick it up. But the line at the bottom, basically, right? The percentage of the population that trust national government, a line going down, basically, to around about 19–20%. Parliament, the same sort of thing. Britain at the bottom. I'm sure Greece would probably have overtaken Britain in terms of the decline in trust by now, but actually it is at the bottom from 97 to 2009. Political parties. People have never really trusted political parties a great deal, you can see from that. But actually, quite a serious decline in trust in another major institution of society. Party membership as a percentage of the electorate. Look at it, it wasn't, again, 0.4% in 1987. Now it's just dwindling to a point where now, academics are talking about the end of the mass party. And this has an impact on general election turnout, as you can see. 1945, 75%. 2001, down to incredibly low level, to 60%. Only just crept up at the last election, even though it was heavily contested. And there's the reasons. Percentage of respondents who believe there's a good deal of difference between the political parties. 1983, 80% thought there's a good deal of difference. 2005, 10% think there's some sort of a good deal of difference between the political parties. Are you a supporter of any one political party? Big no, really. 83, a decline, down to what? Less than 30% people say they're a supporter. And this really, I think, this graph, this is based on a study of party political programmes. And somebody's gone through and scored them according to the election manifestos, according to the ideas in them, and basically come up with how left or right the party is according to what it says in its manifesto. Further up you go, it's more towards the right. Further down you go, it's more towards the left. Now, what you can see is from 1945, right, there's been this gradual drift up towards a point of convergence somewhere on the right between Labour, Liberal Democrats, or Liberals, and the Conservatives. So they're actually becoming more and more right-wing and more similar. Now, it's not just Parliament and political parties and so on that are suffering a decline. This is institutional trust. The police, the press, the banks, the BBC. Right? I mean, look at the banks. Right? 90% trusted the banks in 1983. I mean, I think that's a bit out of date now. It's probably less than that now. It's like below 20%. These are key institutions that hold British society together, that are the regime, you know. Confidence in the press, 81, 2006. The police. The armed forces. I usually have my notes in front of me. I have to keep looking up to see what it says, but some surprises. Justice system. Major companies. Yeah? All of them have suffered a decline in support, trust, and so on. A great distance between the key institutions of British society and the people that are, whose lives are ruined by these institutions in the main. So that's point number one, right? Decline in trust and support for the main institutions of British society. Point number two, a rise in protest politics. People think of the late 60s, early 70s as the zenith of movements of protest. Actually, this is based on a questionnaire done by the World Values Surveys, and this is actually a pattern that is repeated across the Western world. People who have attended a lawful demonstration, 8% in 1974, and a study that was taken just after the Heath government had been brought down by the miners, 2006, it's doubled to 16%. Taken part in a consumer boycott, big increase from 1974. And this is even more interesting, I think. The World Values Study asks people to place themselves on a scale between 0 to 10. I can't remember now, I think it's the lower numbers, the lower number you are. So if you're down at 1, you're left wing. 1, 2, 3, left wing. If you're at 10, you're a Nazi. And based on the percentages who respond to these to this question and where they place themselves, I had a little look at the percentages and worked it out in terms of the population statistics and how big they are. And you can see 1981. Oh, 3 minutes. 1981, you can see that it's 4 million. 2006, it's 7 million. So this is the left. This is the people in this room, right? We all get used to. Obviously, the left sort of feels a bit beleaguered at the moment. Actually, there's 7 million of us. There's probably more. You know, there's millions of people. And actually, you know, this is done by age. I'll have to rush now. But 15 to 29-year-old left. You know, big numbers of people on the left. And where are they concentrated? Actually, they're concentrated in new social movement organisations, right? On the whole, so it's like Stop the War and things like that. This is the, you know, protest movements of protest with very little overlap with the unions and the parties, which is a problem. This is, in this stage, the same thing, really. Lots of people who protested over lots of things. This is people on the February 15th demonstration. They protested over lots of things before. So there's a big body of people on the left who protested over lots and lots of things. I'm going to flash through the trade unionism because Owen's covered it really. The good news is that the decline in support isn't quite as bad for trade unions. They're more trusted than most people. But this is a strike statistics. It's not very good. You know, it's almost, if that was a patient, you'd be worried. You know, trade union membership going down, right? Number of shop stewards gone down, gone down. Where are trade unions basically concentrated? 77% of workers in the private sector work in workplaces where there are no trade union members. They're all concentrated in the public sector, and lots of them are getting the sack, about 200,000 in the last year. So it's hard for unions, and you can see this, I've got, how long have we got? About 2 minutes left now, is it? One. as the amount of collective disputes have gone down, the amount of individual legal disputes have gone up. So this is what the caseload, I'm going to stop showing. This is what the caseload of a union rep is like now. You know, not organising collective struggles, but dealing with casework. Right, I'm going to end on this really, these last two things, because I have to. But, so what I'm saying really is that there has been a weakening of the system, the regime, and so on. Yeah? There has been an increase in protests, movements of protest, people engaged in political protest movements. And there has been a decline, not catastrophic, but bad, in the trade unions. If we want to rebuild the trade unions and build a movement and opposition to these Egypts that are in power now, we have to think about mobilising the protest movements to rebuild, and that approach to rebuild the trade unions. That's where those left-wing people are. That's who we need to, the people in this room need to get together and start to think about relating to. And that means, hold on. Just finally, I'm coming back to the weakness thing. This shows you the amount of backbench rebellions, right, in the House of Commons, right. They are at an unprecedented level with this government, right. You see 2010, great big column up there, right. The Tories are even more likely to rebel, and the reason for that is that they actually don't have a great deal of support amongst the population, and we need to mobilise people out on the streets to take advantage of this weakness, and that's the way we can rebuild the unions and rebuild the power of the working class.